Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. It's that time of year when many people are heading off on their summer holidays, and while it's great to relax and take a break from things, I always find that it's a good opportunity to get some extra photography in too, particularly if you are going to be visiting a town or city during your stay. During the summer months I always think the light is a little bit inferior to that of spring, at least here in the UK. It can be quite pale and appear a bit washed out sometimes. It definitely doesn't have the same character to that of spring. Therefore, I usually wait till quite late in the day to go out on my photo walks. My favourite time is just as the sun is beginning to go down, but while there's still enough of its presence to illuminate and create atmosphere. This is a time leading up to and including twilight and the early evening, that magical transition of daylight succumbing to darkness. What I like about it most of all is that the light changes visibly by the minute, and what a scene looks like changes accordingly. The light becomes warm and subtle, and the shadows grow long but with more feathered edges, but there is still good contrast to be found. The sun's weakening rays catch the human traffic as it moves in and out of the deepening shade. It's a time and light that has inspired many great photographers over the years to produce some of their best work. With the fading light there are some technical challenges. The transition from light to dark is a gradual one, and the light does become very soft. You generally want to be shooting in manual mode. I prefer aperture priority so that I can control the amount of depth of field I can get. So I'll generally go for the smallest aperture possible, anything up to perhaps f/16. This will of course depend on shutter speeds and whether I'm prepared to accept any blurring of movement. If you're going for some street portraits, then a wider aperture is best, perhaps 1.8, 2.8 depending on your lens. And of course you can increase the ISO as the night draws in to maximise your time shooting. We're going to be looking at mostly colour images in this video, but also some great examples of where black and white can work just as well too. If the weather is fine and the sun is shining, then it is a good time to be shooting colour, as the colours will be warm with a glow. Here there is an almost natural sepia tone to the light. The sun's rays still have plenty of illumination, and it's strong enough to create good shadow depth. It has an end of the working day feel to it. The deepening shadows make for unusual framing opportunities and can be used abstractly for adding decoration and interesting highlights. Letting the shadows deepen and allowing the light to pick out your subjects is a good way to create images with a more dreamlike or surreal feel to them. Greek photographer Dimitri Melos, who is now based in New York, has some great examples of this technique. The colours add a richness to the scene without being overpowering or distracting, and the sun has highlighted the important parts of the image in the most natural way. There is an element of chiaroscuro here, the use of deep variations and subtle gradations of light and shade for dramatic effect. We can look at the paintings of Caravaggio for fine examples of this. As the sun continues its descent, it begins to have less impact on the environment, and the light becomes more mysterious and atmospheric. Robert Adams' photography was often about finding beauty in the mundane, and he had an obsession with the American landscape and how it had changed during the many years he had been photographing it. Here he captures a silent moment where the world seems to have stopped. It's Edward Hopper-like in its composition, but the black and white tones are as smooth as you like. If it's narrative intrigue or psychological tension you're after, then of course we have to mention Gregory Crewdson when looking at photographing in the twilight zone, for there is no better exponent. Now, we know his big production, elaborately staged shoots are not your normal type of street photography, and he does control every last detail in his images. However, I love his pictures for his framing and how he positions the key elements in relation to the light and the effect it has on them. The luminous colours are sumptuous. There really is so much that is mundane in these depictions of American neighbourhoods, yet so much that is so visually powerful. Superb illustration in black and white here of how the low sun can catch objects and create both depth and activity on its way. You can imagine how the highlighted windows will disappear one by one as the changing light gradually alters the scene. Magical stuff, like painting with light. Make a point of looking at how objects catch the sun's rays as its height changes, as this may be the starting point for a picture. Harry Callahan was best known for his black and white imagery during the 1950s and 60s. but here he shows how to maximise the use of colour in a honeyed light. Abstract pictures make for a great project when the light's effects become more complex. Look out for interesting patterns and textures that you can compose around. A different approach from Harry Gryart here, but I love the mood. It feels like the early evening as nightlife begins and the air is warm and embracing. A great colour palette and framing with a woman's reflection, but which denies us her identity. A curiosity is aroused about our whereabouts. Harry Gryart is a master at reflections, and even in minor roles as here, they still bring much to the image. I'm not normally one for photographing sunsets or sunny skies, but here the sky had a slightly surreal quality to it, so it would have been a shame to ignore it. Nonetheless, I wanted to show that we were still deep within the city and feature as much of it as I could. I also wanted to include a lone passerby to help create a more solemn mood and give it a bit more focus. Alex Webb brings us some wonderfully saturated colours and full-on framing with this shot taken in Cuba in 1993. The colours play a starring role every bit as equal to that of the relaxed posed subjects. Marvellous stuff and a great example of how to use the light. Well into the fading light is this gorgeous shot from Ernst Haas. Quite abstract in form, but he has captured the golden velvety light in mesmeric style. This image appears in the book Colour Correction, and though it's quite difficult to find, if you do, it's well worth shelling out for. It seems he could find images like this at will. His understanding and control of colour and light knew no bounds. Each of these images show how it's possible to produce the most beguiling pictures by using the fading light and ambience of the twilight hours. In each there is a perfect moment. It's there and then it's gone. Incidentally, there is a new book being published later this year about Ernst Haas abstract work, which I will be doing a review of. With the sun releasing its grip on the day, the sky's the limit here, and with the light just about catching the parked cars, it was time to say goodnight. That's it for this video. I hope this look at what you can do with your street photography in and around the twilight hour has been helpful, and I hope it's given you ideas of how you can use this magical time to create sophisticated images that are constructs of the light and shade. Check out my book Fine Art Street Photography, which is available on Amazon or from my website at www.rupertvandervelde.co.uk. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.